So I'd like to share with you today a little bit of information about what is going on in the Middle East. I think so much of what is transpiring there is very significant as it relates to biblical prophecy. All of the pieces on the chessboard are there, and they are moving. And I would say, unlike a chessboard, they're moving at lightning speed. So I wanted to share with you a Flashpoint report, just to give you an update on some of the things, three things in particular, or three areas in particular that I think are extremely important. And again, as I share this, I hope that you don't see it just as an exercise in educating your mind about politics. That's important as believers for us to stay apprised of what's going on in our world, but particularly as it relates to the land of Israel. You know, everything in the world is moving towards Jerusalem. That is where the culmination of human history is going to take place, and specifically on the Temple Mount. So this is a battle that has raged between God and Satan through all of human history, and it will culminate in the city of Jerusalem. So our emphasis and our focus is Jerusalem, is Israel, is the Middle East, and what is taking place there. And it's important as believers that we understand what's transpiring. And we've been going through this coronavirus, and our world, in large measure, in terms of where we live and what's going on, almost seems that it was frozen in time, in large measure. Everything kind of has been frozen. But don't think that the events taking place in Israel and geopolitically around the world have been frozen in time. The news media has focused our attention on the coronavirus and issues related to that. In more recent days, issues related to the protests going on around the country and the rioting that's taking place. But there are a lot of important geopolitical events that are taking place in various locations around the world. And one of the things that is very important is the relationship of Israel in the center of all of these things. So three areas that I want to just draw your attention to briefly as we're going through this. Israel, the U.S., and annexation. Now, I hope you know what I mean when I'm talking about annexation, because it's probably one of the most important things going on in the world today that almost no one is talking about unless you're in political circles and you're really following these things carefully. If you remember, at the beginning of 2020, January 2020, before really coronavirus came into being the focus of all of our attention, you had President Trump, and he had been working on this with his son-in-law Jared Kushner and others in his administration to create a peace plan for Israel and the Palestinians. Now, you know, many presidents through our history, in recent history, have tried to tackle this issue. It is one of the, if not the most difficult issues in all of geopolitics, in what's going on in the world. So President Trump stepped up and really wanted to create what he called the deal of the century, to create a peace plan between Israel and the Palestinians. It's important for a number of issues, but of course, biblically and prophetically, critically important. So in his proposal, as part of the peace plan that President Trump put forth with Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel, is a plan designed around the geography of Israel. Now, there are lots of different components, and I'm not going to get into all the details today, but I do want you to see, one is just a little zoomed in a little bit more, which is this one to the right. It's the same essential map. You're just seeing a little bit more of the detail down at the bottom of this map in the south of Israel. But for the time being here, we'll show you just a little bit about what is involved in the geographical aspects of the peace plan. As you know, there is a geographic area within Israel called the West Bank. And the West Bank is an area that is to the western side of the Jordan River. The Jordan River, again, runs from the Sea of Galilee in the north of Israel and runs down to the south into the Dead Sea. okay? So the Jordan River. So here you have Greater Israel. Over here you have the nation, which really the modern nation of Jordan, on this side of the Jordan River. But on the western shore of the Jordan River is known as the West Bank. The West Bank. It's the western bank of the Jordan River, if you will. But it goes into what is known as the area of Israel, significantly into the area historically we know as Judea and Samaria. Okay? Judea, this area, and Samaria over in here biblically. Okay? So, in this area you have a lot of Palestinians who live in this area called the West Bank. But you also have a lot of Jewish settlements, small enclaves, some of them are not so small, that are sprinkled in all over this geographical area. Now, what you should understand, when you look at a flat map, you don't always understand the significance of the location. This is a mountainous area. So the Jordan River, first of all, is a very, very low valley that runs to the lowest spot on the face of the earth, which is the Dead Sea. But as you come up from the Jordan River on both sides, you hit mountain ranges. Mountain range on the Jordanian side, and a mountain range, several of them, on the western side in Israel. So when you come up from that low area of the Jordan Valley, you come up to the highlands, if you will, the mountainous region, and then over the highlands, you descend again to the coastal plain along the Mediterranean Sea. So you have to understand the geography is very important. This is the high ground. Okay, so you have a lot of Palestinians who reside in the high ground of Israel in these locations in Samaria and historic Judea. Okay, Jerusalem is right here in this location. So what you have in President Trump's peace plan is this very difficult dissecting, if you will, of this area. Some have called it Swiss cheese, because you have a lot of Palestinians mixed in, and in between you have a lot of Israeli settlements. So in President Trump's plan, he's not asking anyone to be uprooted from their homes, whether it's Jews living in Israel, Israelis, or Palestinians. In the plan, everyone can stay in their homes, which is a remarkable thing to propose, because I think everyone who thought about this said, okay, there's going to have to be people that are going to be moved en masse to other locations. So the proposal is to carve up a variety of areas, giving essentially annexing these settlements, these Israeli settlements, into Israel proper, with all the rules and laws of Israel itself. And the Palestinians, at some point in the future, if they follow the protocol and procedures, and if Israel is able to make sure that they have peace, safety, and security, at some point in the future, with a series of things that the Palestinians are required to do in the plan, they could have their own Palestinian state. In addition, because some of these areas would be taken, the settlements would be taken and essentially annexed into Israel proper, Israel would also make up that land area that would be taken with the settlements and give additional land areas in what's known as the Negev desert area in connection to the area of Gaza, which is another Palestinian enclave. In these areas for high-tech manufacturing, an industrial zone, and some also residential and agricultural areas. Now you say desert, but these areas are really coming back to life. They're blossoming, and there's lots of potential. One of the areas, one of the challenges, is that those who are the Palestinians living in Gaza, it's a large population, but in a very small area. This would allow them to have new areas to develop businesses and to have places to live, to farm, and to greatly improve their quality and standard of living. Also, there would be a tunnel system that would run under Israel proper to connect all of these areas within a future potential Palestinian state. So, annexation is one of the key components of what was proposed to Israel in President Trump's plan. But the annexation was not to begin until July 2020. So within the next couple days and beyond, Israel is free, based on President Trump's proposed plan, to take advantage of the opportunity for annexation of many of these Israeli settlements in the West Bank. Now, of course, the world, apart from America, refers to this area of the West Bank as occupied territory. And they believe, most of the world, would say that this is occupied territory by Israel and that these annexation will be illegal if Israel moves forward. So there's a lot of pressure being put on Prime Minister Netanyahu not to move ahead with the annexations. Now, to complicate matters even more, there are many very right-leaning, politically, Israeli settlers who are living in this area of Judea and Samaria, historical Judea and Samaria, who don't want to be annexed into Israel proper. And you'd say, now that's strange. Why would they take that position? Of all of the people, of the Jewish Israelis who are there, you would think these would be the people who would be most excited about it. Well, there are many who are, but there are many who are biblicists who say, we do not want to see our ancient homeland divided. And if this plan moves forward, and if the Palestinians do what they're required to do in the proposal, they will eventually have their own Palestinian state. And so there are Jewish settlers living in this area who say the land of Israel, our ancient homeland of the Jewish people, should never be divided. And as a result, they are opposing an also right-wing Prime Minister Netanyahu, which really complicates the entire situation. So what we may see here in the next few days or weeks or months is Prime Minister Netanyahu, which he said he is planning to move ahead and annex many of these areas of ancient Judea and Samaria into Israel proper. So that's the first major situation that is transpiring, and many people, many nations, many politicians, many world leaders are putting enormous pressure on Israel not to move ahead with the annexation plan in President Trump's plan. Now, one other major component is that President Trump is up for re-election later this year. And so there are many within Israel who say this is our moment of opportunity to move forward to reclaim the areas that are part of our ancient historic homeland. If we miss this opportunity, it may be gone forever. So there's tremendous amount of pressure on the Prime Minister in Israel today, not to mention the fact that Israel's government is sharing power between Prime Minister Netanyahu and Benny Gantz, who is the alternate Prime Minister who will take power some time from now, after Prime Minister Netanyahu's time as Prime Minister is done. So that's the first situation that's going on.